Hello. Yeah. Hey. Back to this, because we're almost done. Episode 3.
The grand end-of-the-century Great Exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few are aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the Crystal Tower itself, brought the truth to light.
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine! A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location. Whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before. In but a few moments from now, this gentleman will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you!
This one, yes! Whoa! Yes! No! Please! That's not what I wanted!
Well, that could only have ended badly. Bruno, are you listening? Oh, sorry, what was that, Iris?
What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Didn't you like what I cooked for breakfast?
No, that's not it at all. What were we talking about again?
Today's paper. It's full of news about the Great Exhibition again.
Oh yes, the Great Exhibition. I'd like to go sometime.
You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley?
Did you say something, Iris?
Oh gosh, you're even more down.
Ah! When did you arrive, Mr. Naruhodo? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together? What? Why didn't you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here. You know, because... breakfast? Horace is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim. So much so that I didn't notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning with all its unruly spikes. Clearly it can be deduced, therefore, that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has, ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Thanks again. It crossed my mind recently, and it's been 6 months now.
6 months.
Since I was forbidden from working in court. So I've been wondering how much longer I'm going to be banned.
Oh, well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Hurley?
Did you say something, Iris? Back to moping. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down in the dumps than me.
I know, and the great exhibition is opened. You think he'd be excited. Oh, why don't we all go to see it together?
I want to. Of course I do. I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because I'm a great detective after all. So, you're embroiled in some tricky case that you can't be distracted from? Is that it?
I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Hurley.
Suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Half a year ago now, I took on the defence of a young gal in a trial heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place at a London pawnbrokery, turned out to be one part of a much more far-reaching plot that involved the British government. During the course of the trial, it was found that I made an unavoidable, yet at the same time unforgivable mistake. Words just fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord? I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I had to spend my time in research and study, so that's what I've been doing.
You have, haven't you, Bruno? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room, and the notes about Sholmes' old cases. Brewing Iris's special blends of teas, fetching my daily bread for me. You'll become something of a manservant around here. Start on the silverware next, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider. Specifically Lord Strongheart at the British Supreme Court on Whitehall. Lord Strongheart? Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice. Not my favourite fellow. It's not mine either. But he's the man I have to talk to.
anyone who can grant permission for me to start working in the courts again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could. I can't do that just sitting around here. The whole of London has been swept up in this great exhibition, hasn't it? The most advanced science, the most modern technology, the finest works of art and feasts of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing those things, and the world will be watching.
Oh, do you know what I like to do? I like to look down on London from one of those lovely balloons.
Look down on... Do you mean those things? Lie?
Yes, of course. They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings to do it. All you need is hot air.
Ow! Does hot air have anything to do with flying? Makes no sense. Can't understand it at all.
That's true of a lot of new scientific discoveries. Most people can't understand them at first. And in 100 years' time, all these things will just be common knowledge.
I suppose they might be.
Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong on the open experimentation stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it though. I'd love to see how bad some of these scam experiments really are.
Says the innocent 10-year-old girl. See here, every page of this paper carries some article or other about the Great Exhibition. But the brighter things shine, the darker the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I find myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That is my proper atmosphere. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back page of the paper? Every article on the front page is news about the Great Exhibition. Public experiments to demonstrate brand new scientific ideas, cultural exhibits from around the globe. It's also positive and hopeful about the coming century. We must all go to see it properly before too long. Coming century, eh? So many glowing reports about the Great Exhibition and everything that's going on there. Other than this rather gloomy looking one, that is. Wait, what?
What's the matter, Runa?
The Reaper attacked? That's Lord Van Zeeks. This must be what Mr. Sholmes was talking about. Does he know any more, I wonder? Are you investigating a particularly tricky case at the moment, Mr. Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add. It's not like you. What sort of case is it? Shh! Quiet, Mr. Naruhodo. We must not discuss it here. You never know who might be listening.
You're acting very strangely, Hurley.
What do you mean, Iris?
Well, usually, the more mysterious and complicated a case is, the better Hurley's mood.
Huh?
Is it really a case that's bothering you?
Iris, please. You mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say. Put yourself in the shoes of the individual about whom you're making deductions. You say that, do you? You, Mr. Sholmes. Never mind. Once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my way at once to the crime scene. That was a deep sigh. It says in the paper that Lord Van Zeeks was attacked? That's terrible. You know the legend of the Reaper of the Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Yes, Prosecutor Barak Van Zeeks. You say that if the Reaper is the prosecutor in a case, there's no salvation for whoever's in the dock. Even if the defendant is found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights, one way or another, that person's time left on this earth will be short. London's finest rogues always find ways around the law. They'll stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial. Falsifying evidence, paying sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges. But even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hand of the Reaper. As you've experienced yourself, haven't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of those criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among their fraternity is seen to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital is a never-ending supply of such scoundrels. So, do you mean Lord Van Zeeks has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time? He's quite an accomplished combatant, you know. He doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my goodness. Is he alright then? Is Lord Van Zeeks hurt? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know?
Well, in the article here it says, as to what of Lord Van Zeeks and his condition, all will be revealed in tomorrow's morning edition.
Ah, I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait until tomorrow. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. Who? Lord Strongheart, perhaps? Well, I must be leaving now. Yes, understood. See you later, Mr. Sholmes. Huh. You really are a shameless liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off my guard and follow me, don't you? Well, you will be wasting your time. What hadn't crossed my mind? Now I'm wondering where you're going. Well then, see you later indeed. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out the door.
Alright then, Rumo. Let's get going.
Hold on. Iris? What are you wearing?
I've got change to go to the Great Exhibition. You're going to take me.
What? But I was just about to go to the Supreme Court.
Oh, well, that sounds fun too. You're going to take me there then.
Alright, fine. Just lower that weapon, would you?
Of course. And after the Supreme Court, then we're going to see the Great Exhibition.
About 6 months now since I was last here. Some things never change, like the sense of foreboding I always seem to feel in this place. Doesn't seem to be bothering Iris at all, though. She's happily reading over there.
Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books here.
Of course, I was forgetting that you've been here before. Time we came here 6 months ago. Princess Sado-san was given the news that she was to return to Japan. Ah, I understand you wish to speak with me. Oh, Lord Strongheart, trust you've been keeping well. Let's see. Since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes, and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies. Oh no, not at all. Like nothing more than standing around staring into space. Good to know. Good to know. It doesn't appear to bother him at all. Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who allowed me to start practicing as a defence lawyer when I arrived in Britain as a student. You need only savour the air for the moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status. As you will be aware, the Great Exhibition of London is now underway at last. We're extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium. Oh, I've not heard about that. Investigating authorities from 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future. The world must embrace it. As we're the hosting nation, I have much to do. And it is my highest priority. If others must wait for my attention as a result, so be it. Well, it's nice to know where I stand. So, you wish to consult with me? Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about. Well, thank you for agreeing to this meeting, my lord. I want to be allowed to start working as a defense lawyer again in court. That's what brought me here today. But actually, there's something else playing on my mind as it happens.
Bruno, just take a deep breath and come out with it.
I actually came here today to ask for your permission.
Go on.
6 months ago, my right to work in a court as a lawyer was revoked, and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened, but the thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system. I desperately want to have another go. Please, permit me to enter the courtroom again.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes? Here it comes.
I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriot. This was never your intended role.
Well, that's true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend on the study tour, not me. It should have been Kazuma. He was so determined to bring change to our own justice system at home. That was his calling. If that tragic accident hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in this office now. Mr. Asogi was my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I have to fulfill his calling for him.
His calling, you say? Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling?
Sorry?
The mission with which that young law student was charged, what do you suppose it really was?
What do you mean? Mission? He's not making any sense.
Never mind.
I've read all the reports you submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me that you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions.
Do you mean...
As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's wonderful news, Reno.
In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope.
Of course. Please tell me more. You described it as a curious affair?
Yes, that's right. I believe it was reported in the press. Are you aware that there was a serious accident at the Great Exhibition yesterday?
Oh, no.
Yes, I read about it. A professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment. Let me see, how was it described? Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, I think.
Instantaneous kinesis? As in, move things with a click of the fingers?
That's right. It's just what my herbal blends need. A dash of devil may care.
Whatever this serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination. It's an unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage, and a man lost his life. A certain Mr. Odious Man. Odious Man, oh my god. An investor and a well-known figure in society. A large explosion?
A man died?
The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Harebrain. He was detained immediately after the incident and is due to appear in court tomorrow on the charge of murder.
What? Murder?
If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There is very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation.
A great exhibition, scientific experiment gone wrong, and murder. I fell out of my depth before I've even started. Still...
We should go to the prison straight away then, and try to meet with this German professor, don't you think?
Definitely.
Ah yes, one more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper.
Oh, Lord Van Zeeks? How?
All sorts of conferences have been taking place around the world to coincide with the Great Exhibition. And next month, the largest and most important of them all will take place at last. The International Forensic Science Symposium.
Does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it?
Exactly. London, the global epicenter of culture, science and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similarly startling rate. So it's imperative that we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible.
Which is what's known as forensic science, isn't it?
Exactly. The future of policing. Regrettably, however, Britain is currently dragging its feet when it comes to the adoption of forensic methods.
Oh dear, that's alarming.
Exactly. It's extremely alarming. If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you can be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. And I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reasons to support my claim. Sorry? My way of apology for keeping you waiting earlier. I shall detail everyone now.
What? Oh, how fascinating.
It all began 15 years ago. I was... blah 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 blah. And that's more or less sums up the feelings on the matter, in the simplest of terms, of course. Essentially, to formally establish a forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission.
Oh, right. Yes, that's wonderful.
Exactly. Wonderful is precisely what it will be.
Iris isn't paying attention at all. She's got her nose in another book now. Oh, is it over? Did you learn anything useful?
I actually drifted off for the most part. Surprisingly ardent about forensic science.
Oh, that reminds me. Have you seen this?
The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition. Of course.
No, not that. The story on the back page.
What story? The Reaper attacks. Ah, that. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not?
Oh, Mr. Reaper, what happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he?
There's no need for concern. Lord Van Zeeks would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you.
Can you tell us what happened? I'd really love to know.
Very well. If it interests you.
It does, strangely.
Fortunately, Lord Van Zeeks emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He's a very capable fighter.
But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. Where was he attacked, though? Do we know?
It's related to events that occurred a month ago. The leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by Van Zeeks. But the man was acquitted. I've no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes.
Large sums of money.
A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday.
But you're not suggesting that was the work of the Reaper, surely?
The victim's henchmen certainly seemed to think so. He was a man by the name of Asman. Mr. Odiousman.
Did you see Asman? That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exhibition.
Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality the head of a significant criminal organization.
Believable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongrod?
Try me.
Why do you use Lord Van Zeeks as a prosecutor? All the criminals you managed to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends outside the courtroom.
Fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord Van Zeek's first. Now, there's no evidence that he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still. Something's clearly going on here. I have Van Zeek's work for the prosecution service for two reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him.
That doesn't make sense. How can you explain the way so many have died if not by someone's hand?
Van Zeeks may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget.
11 hours late? That's quite something.
That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man.
I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments. And 223 reasons. Oh yes, where would I find Lord Van Zeeks now?
I would assume he's at his office.
Right, I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth.
Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Hairbrain's defense entirely in your hands.
Of course, yes. Thank you very much, my lord. The warden said cell 11. That's this one. Oh, there's someone curled up in a ball in the back corner. Look. What's his name again? Professor Albert Hairbrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Hairbrain? Who are you? I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a defense lawyer. A lawyer? Was it something I said? A lawyer, you say? What do you mean here? About the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis? Your hypothesis? Sparrow? Yesterday's demonstration! That magnificent demonstration was... It was an out-and-out success by anyone's calculations. But despite that, no one listens. No lawyer believes in the science. When they explain, they all leave at high velocity. Now's probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while too. You mentioned the demonstration yesterday.
The papers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, a man died in the explosion, didn't he?
Yes, you could interpret the results that way if you really wanted to. I suppose, in the stricter sense, the experiment was a failure, but at the same time it was a great success. You've lost me. I saw it with my own eyes, right there in front of me. Mistress Mem was spontaneously disassembled. Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations had predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the Crystal Tower by instantaneous kinesis. However,
machine exploded and Mr. Esmond in fact perished.
Yes, I can't deny that part of the experiment was a failure.
So what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Mr. Esmond was an accident, correct?
But the bigwigs had you arrested on suspicion of murder.
I was responsible for a man's death. That is the immutable truth here. And for that, I wish to be punished at once. But murder? Never in a million years. It was an accident. Simply an accident. I see.
Ellie and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or murder.
How exactly?
Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody.
On what grounds? Ah, yes. It's newly established here in Britain. The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. That one passed me by.
But if the case is treated as murder, then they'll say my
machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pore over it as much as they like. If they examine it in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My precious hypothesis will be stolen. That machine must be protected from that at all costs. That's why it's imperative this whole incident is shown to have been an accident in tomorrow's trial. I see now. So, in short, there was a terrible accident at the Great Exhibition Showground yesterday. Yes, or rather no, the devil is in the details. Strictly speaking, there was a terrible explosion. Sounds the same to me.
You were demonstrating super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating.
Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So it must be possible using a sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's it in a nutshell. That's my idea, you see. That's my amazing hypothesis. Gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science. Oh, but dare to imagine it. Dare to dream of such incredible technology. Just think, one moment I could be here in this cell, and the next I could be at the Great Exhibition again. Yes, that would be incredible. And the next, in the mere blink of an eye, I could be at the Great Partisan Theatre. Parisian Theatre, say. The possibilities are endless. The whole of our vast planet would be within reach. So no more hiding in wardrobes or rock seas for 50 days.
I don't really see it like that.
What do you mean, Iris?
Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think it would feel like it had shrunk.
My word, that's exactly right. What are the implications? What does this mean?
Oops, that got Professor Bunnybrain really worried by the look of it.
Clearly, this is yet another case of just because you can doesn't mean you should, I suppose. The point is, my calculations are flawless. The science works. But without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. That's always the fly in the ointment.
Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money. Money that young scientists like you don't have.
That's exactly it, yes.
Hurley's always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science.
Well, anyway, I bumped into him here at the right time. I met the well-known investor, Mr. Esmond. victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The full name of the man who died in yesterday's accident is Mr. Odious Man, wasn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man? He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I thanked my lucky stars. I see. So you hadn't really known each other until then.
Money for scientific research. I'm so envious.
As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel. Oh, really? An archangel, even. He was prepared to fund a practical demonstration of my hypothesis representation at the Great Exhibition. And if that went well, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. Mr. Esmond provided me with money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications.
But then your dreams are blown to dust in one enormous explosion.
As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Esmond. I would never even have thought of taking the man's life. And he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying.
Oh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office.
Yes, it appears so.
It sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere.
Oh, is that? The hooded figure was so still I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? Ugh. He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. I am. So, who's the person over by the wall being punished for something or other? No punishment is taking place here. Oh. That's my apprentice, and he's sitting there of his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. Must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. He is very able in combat, a requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage. Are you referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers? The Reaper. Check something before I started. Good. Right. I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself. Assuming, that is, such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits our great courtrooms. Lord Strongout said that the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack? True, carried out by henchmen of Odious Man's criminal organization. The investigation meant their arrests were imminent. Presumably some hoped to kill me before that happened. Odious Man. He always masquerades as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor. but his enormous wealth came to him by underhanded means, via his criminal activities.
And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper.
But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was a most unusual cause of death.
Wait, I know about that. It was super high voltage instantaneous kinesis going wrong. Mr. Esmond died while the demonstration on the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion.
Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that happen, do you?
Well, no. It does seem a little far-fetched. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be innocent on this particular death at least. It's strange how this worked out, isn't it, Reno? I mean, what with you taking on the Professor's defense for the trial tomorrow?
What? You're going to be defending him?
Oh, yes, that's right. I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest.
Albert. Albert Harebrain.
That's right. Do you know him by any chance?
Of course. He is a contemporary of mine. We were at university together.
You're... What? I understood that Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though.
Harebrain's from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research. That's all.
So, you were students together?
I was in the Faculty of Law, of course, and he in Science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him.
Only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems.
Yes, I know. Because the prosecution will be handled by me.
By you? But you made it sound as if you and the professor had been friends.
We are friends, it's true.
Then why would you do this? If the Reaper is the prosecutor, there's nothing anyone can do to save him. He's doomed. It's Lord Van Zeek's thinking. What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean?
I'm a crown prosecutor, and a mortal like any other. I'm no demigod.
But they've all died, haven't they? The people you've prosecuted, I mean. Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal.
Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who without question deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them.
But that's not true of Mr. Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch at all. No, it's Ginny, in fact. She's ever so hard-working now.
I can't deny that since I encountered you, things have taken a turn, but the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hands of their own kind. It's not my work.
Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. But you were attacked by those ruffians because they believe it's true.
The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. Oh. It would appear that even the most hardened criminals can be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say... I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor.
But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed.
If that is my fate, let God decide.
Van Zeeks.
Van Zeeks, about the article in this paper. Oh yes, it seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I'd been photographed. It was careless of me.
It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had run away, though.
Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them.
It's someone else fighting alongside you, it seems.
I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it? As I mentioned already, he's my apprentice.
Perhaps you could tell us a little more about him?
He is in my tutelage to become a prosecutor. So you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose.
Like you are to Hurley then, Runo.
Don't remember taking an apprenticeship with the great detective. He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack.
Looks like he's wearing some kind of mask.
On Lord Strongheart's orders. Nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity.
Why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual?
Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions.
I hope you're right.
The task is complete? Good. In that case, you can collect all the briefs.
Nice to meet you.
Back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. Didn't even know he existed, and yet... somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter. Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it.
Oh, I see.
Why are you so interested in my apprentice, anyway?
Oh no, I mean... sorry, I didn't mean to... Why he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be. Oh, what's his face from the, pawnbrokery trial again?
That's what I'm going to go with for now. Oh yes, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
That Nipponese man, is he faring well?
Sorry?
The one arrested twice in succession 6 months ago, with the stoop and the moustache and the jitters.
Ah, Mr. Natsume, you mean? I'm not sure I'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Bruno.
He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day. I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case. Yes, thank you for the advice. And for the conversation.
Can't believe he's asking Dr. Soseki-san after Nepalese.
I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried.
I never imagined that Mr. Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did you? That's a turn up for the books.
Mad scientist? Ah, you mean Professor Hairbrain? Yes, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Van Zieks, I think. I understand Lord Van Zieks is a friend of yours from your university days?
Yes, that's right. He was studying law whilst I was studying science.
What was he like back then?
Good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, an all-around nice fellow, really.
Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor Baron Van Zieks. What was he like when he was at university?
Talk about a leading question, Bruno.
As I said, an unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he is the little darling of the Van Zieks family, with all its great aristocratic origins.
See? I didn't realize he had quite such noble blood.
Little darling? It was a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learnt what he'd become. The Reaper at the Bailey, no less. Yes, that's right.
I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation.
Really? What sort of event?
I'm sorry, but I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already.
Oh, yes, of course. He's heard all about the Reaper. I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Van Zieks will be the prosecutor in tomorrow's case. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. That huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying? You had no intent to harm the victim, who was, in fact, the sole investor in your work. Is that correct?
That's correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it. Yes, it's true that the man perished in a machine of my invention, so I know that I'm far from blameless in all this, but still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions to take a person's life, not in a centillion years. I'm a man of science, it's all I know. You have to believe me, please. Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the purest of truth, you know. I've always believed that, all my life.
I'm afraid I don't know much about science or your theories. But I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law. It's all I know. You have to believe me, please. You have to believe me, please. No When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learned something very important. Nationality, class, lineage, none of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court.
Alright, Bruno. It's time. Time to visit the Great Exhibition.
Sorry?
Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. Showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. I've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now and I've felt myself swooning 3 times.
There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've almost been trodden on 3 times too.
Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. Wendy made it through the throngs, though, by the look of it. Here we are underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. What's that? Hearing voices from up on the stage. Sounds like an argument. Right, I've had it with you this time. I'm warning you. I'll arrest you in a minute.
Oh yeah? Go on then, Spectre. Give it a shot. You ain't got no evidence, and you know it.
Wait, I know those voices. You've got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady, but a night in the cells will teach you some manners.
Just try it, dare ya? You want that bag of chips rammed down your throat? Yoo-hoo! Ragsy, what are you doing up there?
Ah! It's you! Here! You here! Here you are! You here! Your ladyship! How are you, your ladyship? I do hope you're well, your ladyship. Does that make her 3 times the lady?
I'm not well at all. It's far too busy everywhere. I wanted to write in a bloom, but there was a 3-hour queue.
Unbelievable. I gotta have a word for you at once, your ladyship. I'll be flying as high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Tobias Gregson, an inspector at Scotland Yard. Until recently he was suspended from duty, but it would appear he's back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. For that reason, he can't say a word wrong to this jewelry's author, Iris. There are limits, surely. Well, there should be. Watch it, sunshine. Sorry? What gives in? Don't tell me you're on this case. Yes, I'm acting for the defense.
So we're here to investigate.
Dear me, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling?
Measly 5 bob. Is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't you? You could stand to carry a bit more copper around in your pockets, Mr. Naruhodo.
What? Hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is.
You can have it back, but I'll have to charge you for all the bother. 3 bob.
This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. In the case that led to my own suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court.
What's your problem, Odo? Diver, pickpocket, what's with all the name calling? You want a bag of chips round down your throat and all, do you?
I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina. You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks here at the showground.
That ain't no way to talk to a lady, Odo. After years, a long time, people can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. So you'll have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now.
Inspector? That badge is homemade, surely. Well, the Inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For all it's worth, anyway. Investigating it is off the cards for all of us.
What's that supposed to mean?
Right, well, I'll be back up top. You hold the fort down here, alright?
Right, sir.
This raises a lot of questions. It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina, in connection with a case I was working on. At the time, she was living in the East End with a group of other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but then she got embroiled in a murder.
Had a lot of time to think in prison. I realised I couldn't go on like I was. The diving weren't working out. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, Ginny. Well done.
So, you went from being a pickpocket to a detective?
You got it. Good, isn't it? Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something out of a book, eh?
Talk about a sea change.
And then there's Iris's old man to think about.
Iris's father. You mean...
Yeah, I promised her, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police force around the world to pull out all the stops looking for him.
just a small promise then, nothing serious.
Oh, Ginny, you're so sweet. So anyway, that's how did it go at the test for Scotland Yard. Only trouble is, I didn't read so well, do I?
Just a small problem, nothing serious.
And that's when Hurley approached Gregsy and asked for help. So the inspector said he'd take full responsibility for Gina and made her a sort of apprentice.
That was very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson, and brave.
Well, you know Hurley. He enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants.
Great detective likes digging for dirt. In other words.
So, the long and short of it is, if you've got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade.
Right then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there?
Oh, what Bruno, what?
Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty, and yet here she is, still...
Come on, you're not still on about that, are you? The Legend of the Reaper or whatever it's called. Cool. You don't half worry, Odo.
If I didn't half worry, there probably wouldn't be a whole lot of you left.
It's like I told you before, isn't it? The Reaper's kind of like him upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside, that I ain't really done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong might be stretching a point.
And about Mr. Natsume in Japan, he's perfectly fine, isn't he?
Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought.
Exactly. So I ain't worried. I'm totally fine. Cool. It was out of this world, it was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers on this machine, and suddenly it started blowing smoke. Then it just went pop. Ain't seen a better experiment here yet.
Sorry?
You mean you saw it, Ginny? With your own eyes? Yeah, of course. The boss is in charge here, ain't he? Of keeping everything running smooth, I mean.
The boss being Inspector Gregson, I suppose. That's going to take some getting used to.
So all I have to say is that I'm on duty, and I can do whatever I want to. Get this, I was up in one of them flying balloons when it happened, watching it from above. No, you're so lucky, Ginny. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too. Yeah, do it. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You have no trouble at all. Then it's settled. When do I start?
No. You can't join Scotland Yard, Iris.
Well, see, anyway, what I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how can Professor Bunnybrain still be claiming that his experiment was a success? Oh, right, well, it was a success, in a way.
What? How can it have been? Surely after the whole machine blew up, no one could call the experiment a success?
So like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a load of smoke and that whopping great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, eh? In the Crystal Tower over there.
What? In the tower?
You can see for yourself, can't you? Up there, above the scaffold. Oh, where all the glass is broken, you mean? Yeah, the cage what the victim got in to start with really did get beamed through the air or whatever and landed all the way over there. So you see, it did kind of work, didn't it?
What? I don't believe it.
I mean, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but anything's possible, right? With science. Oh, I tell you what, you can have this. It's a plan of the experiment they drew up at the yard.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go on. I had 3 bob on you before, so fair's fair.
Yes, I didn't actually give that to you, did I? Something Inspector Gregson said before seemed a little strange. Well, for what it's worth, anyway. Investigating is off the cards for all of us.
Yes, naughty old Gregsy ran off after that without explaining himself. Oh, right. That. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine what blew up yesterday. Well, that's not fair. We're representing the defendant.
In that case, could you at least tell us what you've learnt from your investigations?
Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate neither.
Why?
What did the boss call him again? The forensic investigation team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay a finger on the scene. Bit funny, isn't it?
So in Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate. Yes, I've never heard something like that before.
I thought I could have a gander in the quiet though, but the boss caught me at it. You probably had him giving me an earful about it before from down here, didn't you? It's not bleeding fair.
I think you were giving him as much of an earful back as I remember it.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips what make him so stubborn. You say something to him, Odo. Go on, see if you can get through to him.
He's up on the platform above us, is he? And the machine that exploded is.
We can try, can't we, Bruno? Grexy will listen to us. That's where the cove ended up after his instant kinesis, or whatever they call it. Dead, of course.
What they call an experiment a success.
What's the wooden scaffolding there for? The coppers, our lads, set that up after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. Dunno, really.
Didn't you help to erect the scaffolding?
Nah, lookout duty's more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition and keeping a lookout for the fun stuff.
Mind Gregson doesn't hear you saying that, or he'll give you the boot. It's incredible though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? Crystal Tower, certainly an apt name. It's built to be the focal point of the exhibition, and it definitely is, being so tall and with all that glass. Can't imagine a building like this ever being erected in Japan.
There are lots of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Of course, that's an observation deck, but there's also an art gallery, a zoo and a museum. I heard you had to queue 3 hours just to get through the doors.
Well, at the moment the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw.
Thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut.
Suddenly it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower.
Apparently everyone's taken to the skies now to look down on the disaster area from above instead. There's a 3-hour queue to go up in a blue now.
Londoners must be very patient people.
It looks as though somebody dropped something behind the tree just here.
Dropped? Or hid? What is this? Some part of the machine that exploded?
Maybe. It could have fallen from the platform above in the blast, perhaps. What's going on here?
Oh, nothing. I'll hang on to this just in case. For some reason the ground is damaged in this spot. Look. Almost as if there was a fire here or something.
Yes. If you look closely, there's some scattered ash and burnt embers too.
Well, I suppose there was a big explosion just above here. People probably wouldn't bat an eyelid at a small fire like this. Like this would have been.
I'm not sure we English are quite that laid back, Bruno. Oh look, what's this? A ripped piece of cloth?
It's not like any fabric I've ever seen before. It's very thick and stiff. It's extremely durable.
It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing.
And the edges appear to be a bit charred as well. Maybe that means it had something to do with the explosion.
Let's make a note of it while Ginny's mid-yawn.
like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. Never seen anything like it before. But applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, the right to do so was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. And the charring must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. There's a freaking crossbow. Ah, there's some sort of lever here. What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. Looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. Must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right. It's sort of a bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. Wait, if I'd had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in judo archery training. This platform must have been set up for the experiment, I suppose. It's very high up.
About 30 feet above the ground, apparently. That's what a policeman I just spoke to said.
I don't really understand feet very well. I don't use them in Japan.
Oh yes, sorry. It's about 9 meters. But soon you'll have been in London a year, Uno. It's time you got used to our measurements.
Yes, well... being so tall, the spectators at the front would just have seen us wall and nothing else.
They probably thought they'd secured the best spot to watch from, only to be disappointed.
There's a saying in Japan, the darker spot is right under the lighthouse. Darkest there. Not like it probably applies here. These stairs obviously lead to the stage above. Should go up there and investigate the exact spot where the experiment was being conducted. So that's it, is it? The machine that blew up.
Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion, and I've seen my fair share.
You've seen things like this before, you mean?
Of course, Halley's always doing experiments that end in a bang. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry.
That might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up the stairs.
One time, he made something that exploded with such force, it took the roof off the building. I wish you'd been there to see it, Bruno.
It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof.
Well, anyway, that's enough about that. It's time to investigate.
Look, Inspector Gregson is over there. Seems to be deep in thought about something, whilst eyeing up the machine carefully.
Really? He just looks confused to me.
Ripped itself apart magnificently, didn't it?
Magnificently and mercilessly.
So someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and then beamed through the air.
Yes, beamed. Not blasted, that's the point.
Yes, that part's crucial, really. Something like that even possible, though, Iris?
Oh, Bruno, I'm just a child. How should I know?
Child when it suits you, you mean?
From what I can tell, I think if we were to pull...
Stop! Don't touch that!
That was practically instantaneous kinesis the way you flew over just now, Grigsy.
Please, your ladyship. I didn't mean to startle you, but can't let you touch anything up here.
I'm sorry. You can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it.
Wonderful. Stuff really is wonderful. Just like old times, this is. We're representing Professor Harebrain in court tomorrow, Inspector. So we should be allowed to examine the scene. Listen, Sunshine. Even I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act to blame. It's driven me potty. Oh yes, that Special Dispensation. The Professor mentioned that too. More red tape's all we need. I don't know what the government thinks it's playing at sometimes.
But we're allowed to just look, aren't we?
Huh?
Surely that's alright, isn't it, Gregsy?
Of course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship. But please don't get your dainty hands dirty, will you?
Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, Runo?
She really knows how to get what she wants. Using high voltage electricity to somehow disassemble a man's body and then beam him across to the Crystal Tower. It's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public. True, was by far the most unusual of the experiments planned for the exhibition mind. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous with so many spectators present, I mean. The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They're more worried about being ahead of the game than the old sport of public safety infringements. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, it makes Britain more powerful in the future, you see. Yes, I suppose that's true, in a way. So the powers that be are placing a heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment.
What sort of rights?
And making it so that any theories the brains have remain their legal property, as it were. Right through developing it into a practical idea and even going into production. Which is the infuriating reason us coppers aren't allowed to touch this crime scene. Because the new highfalutin Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act forbids it. I see now. The only people with permission to investigate here are from some brand new department at the Yard. A forensic investigation team, it's called. We've been relegated to keeping guard.
Forensic investigation team.
Any old fool can see that this heap of scrap metal was a sham to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it.
Poor Grexy. He's very hit up, isn't he?
Remind me again, what's this new legal act that means we're not allowed to touch the scenes here?
Are you having me at it, sunshine? It's the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
Yes. I think Hurley mentioned that recently, with a real twinkle in his eye, as I remember.
I'm sure he did, your ladyship. I'm sure he did. Passed us, especially for this great exhibition it was. All scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions to some suits in the civil service. And if it gets rubber stamped, that's a guarantee of rights to maintain the invention's confidentiality.
What does that really mean?
Think about it. Think of all the world-changing new inventions on display every day at this exhibition. Well, a good half of them are a load of cobblers, if you ask me, put forward by shammers like yourself.
Thanks for that.
Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's all so fun.
Might be fun to you, but a member of the force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, eh? Hang science, that's what I say.
Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job.
You seem to think otherwise after spending money guarding all these shammers, bogus contraptions.
But if they're all bogus, how can anyone hope to demonstrate them? There'd be no point.
Yeah, well, there is a point, sadly.
Sorry?
Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas, if any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant.
Scientists get funding?
Exactly. And that's what they're all after. All these shammers coming from far and wide to clog up Hyde Park. And who was to keep them all safe, eh? Who was to smile politely and welcome them? Us. Coppers, that's who. So you can see why I say it now, can't you? Hang science. Hang it.
Oh, maybe I can see your point.
Apparently Professor Hairbrain lives and works in Germany now conducting his research.
That's right. Came back to Britain especially for the great exhibition, as I understand it. Probably after one of the government's research grants.
Actually, we learned something else about the professor earlier today. From his time in further education, it turns out he was at university with someone we both know. Lord Van Zeeks.
Huh? What's that? That's news to me. But if Van Zeeks means the prosecution, then as the accused, the professor's fate is
sealed, because the Reaper will get him one way or another.
Blimey. That man's beyond me. I don't know what goes on in his head. In that head of his. Talking of Van Zeeks, this morning's paper ran the story of him being attacked. Read that?
Oh yes, but Mr. Reaper is completely fine. Nothing to worry about.
Yes, right. Glad to hear it. Still, the Reaper, huh? How long's that business gonna keep up, I wonder?
The victim in the case, the investor, Mr. Osman. He was another of the Reaper's victims, or so I heard.
Lord Barak Van Zeeks is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can't always push the right verdict through. Sometimes justice can't win. Yes, I've heard about jurors being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Bailey came about, isn't it? Obviously, Scotland Yard suspected Van Zooks initially. We all assumed he was taking matters into his own hands if he failed to seal the deal in court. Though the man himself denies that charge. Well, we've done a very thorough investigation, and the conclusion we've reached is that Lord Van Zooks is in no way related to the deaths of these people outside the courtroom. There's no question in my mind. I'll stake my reputation on it, I would. That's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants couldn't have just coincidentally died if nobody killed them. I know that, but can't explain it. It's a mystery after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper. Professor Harebrain mentioned something else. He said that at university Lord Van Zooks was a totally different person. Easygoing and kind. You what? Said that it was after they both graduated that something happened to change the man. Do you have any idea what it was? No clue. Really? Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself elsewhere, eh? Seeing how badly damaged everything is, Mr. Harebrain was lucky to escape unscathed, I'd say. Should have a good look around the machine while we can, I think. Touch anything and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, you hear? I won't touch a thing, I promise, so please, spare a thought for your digestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people like the Professor claims? He asked, looking totally incredulously. Give it a rest, sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could answer that question. But we can't, can we?
Because of the annoying rules, you mean?
Exactly. The annoying obstruction flaming rules. Oh, look at the base of the machine there.
Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh.
It's a screwdriver, I think.
Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle is in the shape of the capital letter A.
Is it? Oh yes, you're right. What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything, I said. Touch anything and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, I said. Yes, I understand, sorry. You touched me a teeny weeny bit.
But Gregsy, I'm very curious about this screwdriver. Really very, very curious.
Of course, your ladyship. You're so clever, your ladyship. Fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid I can't let you have it.
But Runo found it first.
I assure you, I'll investigate it thoroughly. He's gone off with it.
That was very mean, I'm afraid. Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment now.
Oh, Gregsy. Right, are you done here, Mr. Naruto? Sorry? Isn't it about time you were leaving? Or rather, it is about time you were leaving. There are that lot are here now.
That lot?
The forensic investigation team. They'll be giving me the heat if I win a minute too.
Oh dear, poor Gregsy. Here, have another cup of my special blend to cheer you up.
Ah, hit the spot. Yep, hits it every time. Well, at least I've seen the scene with my own eyes. Looks like this is as far as we're going to get with our investigation, here at least.
I've been thinking. Ellie might know something, mightn't he?
About what?
About Mr. Reaper.
About what happened to Lord Van Zeeks, you mean? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred right after he graduated from university. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Mr. Sholmes at the moment. He's in the middle of some big case, isn't he?
Here, this is what you need.
What's this? Some kind of entrance ticket? Madame Suppels. Is this supposed to mean something to me?
You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London at the moment. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We could go now if you like.
No, we don't have time for visiting attractions today, Iris. We have a big trial tomorrow.
But that's where Hurley is.
What? This popular London attraction?
Yes,
How is it that you know where he is?
Hurley told me, but he told me to keep it a secret from you, Runa.
Madame Suppels. I don't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating here, but then... stranger things have happened. And when they happen, Mr. Sholmes is usually at the heart of them. What is this place? Look at all these terrifying scenes. Why are all the people so still? Guillotines, ruthless murders. I wonder what I'll be dreaming about tonight.
They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? What do you think, Runa? Shocked?
Wax models? Ah! I read about dead bodies and wax once in a magazine about strange phenomena. Depending on how corpses are kept after death, parts of them can turn to wax, apparently. It's called a typical.
Stop talking about creepy things like that, Bruno. You're scaring me. Anyway, the typical doesn't form readily, you know. It's only...
Ah!
What now?
I've just remembered something else I read in another magazine about strange phenomena. There was an old lady, maybe a witch, who used to pour molten wax over corpses to put them on display.
None of the exhibits in here are real. They're all entirely man-made replicas.
They can't be. Do you really expect me to believe that? Just look at them.
Oh,
There's no way anybody could make models of people that are this realistic. And they're all such gruesome scenes. Wait,
what is it?
oh no, I must be seeing things. Is this an arm?
It looks like an arm, doesn't it? Maybe one of the waxwork models has fallen over.
You don't think it could be the work of one of the mass murderers in here, do you?
No. Stop scaring me.
Is it a wax arm or a real one?
Come on, you're always pointing at fingers of yours in court. Poke that arm now and see how it feels.
Objection. It's the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes has his own wax statue in here.
Really? Well, he is world famous after all.
It's an uncanny resemblance, isn't it? Makes my skin crawl to look at it.
I know. But look, Reno. You can kick this heli and he doesn't move a muscle.
Can't go around kicking the exhibits, Iris. Wait. It just moved, I'm sure. And not just a little bit either.
Really? Did it?
And look closely. There are beads of sweat on the face of this waxwork model. Shall we move on, Iris? Over there, look. There's a great murder scene to enjoy. Much more appealing.
Hold it!
My dear fellows, I take exception to your recoiling in such a manner, as if you've seen something truly abhorrent. Mr. Sholmes, I knew it. Iris, what possessed you? I strictly forbade you from divulging my temporary waxwork secret to Mr. Naruto. Temporary waxwork? What do you mean? And that kick. Could you not have exercised a little more restraint? You winded me.
But Reno has something he needs to ask you.
Question.
And I thought you'd probably be getting bored too. So here we are.
Well, I can't deny that your timing was impeccable. A mere 2 minutes more being stationary like that, and my great brain upon which all my success has been built would have turned to wax. Thank goodness we arrived in time. Indeed, in many ways the pair of you just saved the world from an unimaginable loss.
Oh, honey, you do like to talk nonsense, don't you?
You can know something, it's true. About Lord Van Zeeks and what happened in the past to change him. Now that you're here, let's take our time. How can I be of assistance? For you're in luck. I'm suddenly quite taken with the idea of conversing. Oh, well, actually, I'm in quite a hurry. And if my eyes don't deceive me, I believe something is afoot within the walls of this very museum. A most fascinating case, if I'm not mistaken. Really? Moreover, I have a strong suspicion that it is related to the matter about which you've come to me now. But how could it be? We shall speak again presently, my dear fellow, but for now I must return to my work. What? Back to being a temporary waxwork exhibit? What is this place? Madame Soupels came to London from France 3 years ago, I understand. Since she opened this little waxwork museum last year, it's enjoyed great popularity in London. There are museums like this in Japan too, but these displays are something else. I mean, they aren't made from actual real people, are they? The extreme realism of these waxwork models is a particular secret of the Soupels family, they say. They earned renown during the French Revolution for waxworks of victims of the guillotine. That sounds grim. The gruesome scenes were portrayed with such realism in the expressions of the faces of the condemned.
Apparently, the sculptors would make the models directly from the corpses, right there at the site of the executions.
But that really turns my stomach. That's just one of several legends about the Soupels family. Well, whether there's any truth in it, I cannot say. But anyway, this museum houses models of famous people from all over the globe. Nevertheless, the most popular area of the museum by quite some margin is this House of Horrors. House of Horrors? Of course, visitor numbers are dwindling now as a result of the Great Exhibition, but people usually flock here to see the exhibits of some of London's most vile criminals at their gruesome work. Naturally, most of the miscreants portrayed here were sent to the gallows. So they're even stiffer now than their models of them. Have you heard of poor taste? My dear fellow, the public live for poor taste. They yearn to be shocked. So, the hideous exhibits in here are...
They're all betrayals of real events that actually took place.
Is it just me, or did the temperature in here just seem to drop? Anyway, I advise you not to think too deeply about what you see here. Oh, he's back to being on waxwork, is he? What do you mean by temporary waxwork, Mr. Sholmes? Exactly what you see. I'm part of the exhibits here, catching these criminals in the act. Catching them? Every half an hour I home in on a different killer in one of the displays and adopt a new pose to ensnare them. When members of the public come for a closer look, I offer them a handshake, then my hand to shake. For a shilling, I'll happily allow them to take a photograph with us. Does he mean even the waxwork murderers in here? But why, Mr. Sholmes? My dear fellow, isn't it obvious? For the money. He really roared at me there. Very fitting for the House of Horrors. As it stands, I may struggle to pay this month's rent, and I have the ravenous iris to consider.
Oh, Hurley, I'm so hungry.
If push comes to shove, I shall have to ask you to do your bit, Mr. Naruhodo. What's he threatening to rope me into now? So, with that in mind, how about a photograph? As a special treat, you may have your pick of the murders and scoundrels in here. The choice is yours. Maybe some other time. Remember, Mr. Naruhodo, ignore me at your peril. Back to being a waxwork again. Back to being a waxwork again, is it? Is it just me, or did his final remark there sound a lot like a curse? Well, what is it you'd like to ask me then? Actually, it's about Lord Van Zeeks. Ah, our friend Mr. Reaper. How did you find him? Well, I trust. So I filled Mr. Sholmes in about everything I'd learnt. About Lord Van Zeeks, about Professor Harebrain, and about the strange coincidence that they had been at university together. Blech. So I'm wondering what it was that happened to make Lord Van Zeek such a different person.
I was sure that you know, Hurley.
You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before, that something was afoot, and that you believed it was related to what I wanted to ask you about. Mr. Sholmes? He suddenly clammed up. Well, it seems we've reached the...
Greetings.
Oh, hello? Where did she appear from? What was she wearing? Could she look any more mysterious?
I hope you are appreciating my museum.
Sorry, have we... Mr. Sholmes, do you know this? Not again.
My apologies. I am Esmeralda Spells. This is my museum of waxwork.
You're the Madame Souffels?
Bien, sir. Though only 26 years young, I might add.
Is that significant somehow?
I am a madam in name only. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi.
Right.
Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks, or rather, one waxwork in particular.
That'll be Mr. Sholmes then.
I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, there will be toil and trouble. She sounds deadly serious.
That's a problem. Am I supposed to ask Mr. Sholmes about Lord Van Zeeks now?
Let's not forget what Harry said before. About something being afoot right here in the museum, I mean.
Yes, I know, but...
I'm so curious. I want to know what's happening here.
haven't we got enough on our plate already? Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Souffels?
I did. I am the third generation of waxwork artisans, you know. Gosh. It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. Though that is when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to this astonishing lifelikenesses. All these waxworks really do look as though they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of the real people on which they are modelled. In the hours immediately following their executions, that is the secret to their extraordinary lifelikenesses.
That sounds terrifying.
All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. To carry out one's trade par excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see.
Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying?
Do not fear.
Sorry?
This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians. Something for every taste, I hope.
Cyrus, you dragged me straight in here, come to think of it.
Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things.
What's the situation with that?
Ah, my temporary waxwork model. He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal.
Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madam, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective.
Or words to that effect. Naturally, I am well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective.
It's a great detective, actually. He's very specific about it.
Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms.
Let me guess, someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for his services. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment.
Or words to that effect.
Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch.
Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead.
Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing though, does he?
I would think not, but he was very insistent.
I have a 50-shilling problem that must be resolved by this morning. By the morning.
Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker. That's what it is. He must have something to redeem.
Is the consulting detective work not going so well? I wonder, could I ask you something?
Bien, sir.
I'm just curious. Is there anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps?
Whoever suggested such a thing to you?
Oh well, it was... a temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me a little... Oh, he's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. There you are.
Leaving me exhibit again when you should be working. Do you wish to be melted down?
My dear Madam Suppels, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. If it's our ideals about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police.
Why ever not?
She's turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective, whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I prefer... No, I insist upon payment in advance.
Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we?
Give me a minute here. Criminy. Ugh, felt myself passing out there for a second. Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain?
That is a special exhibit. There is an extra charge to see it.
Ah, a special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a serial killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder?
Absolutely none. There is nothing amiss behind there.
Nothing amiss, madam. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond before the situation worsens.
Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains, but only as soup soon.
I must confess, I peeped behind the curtain earlier. The Supal special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor.
Well then, perhaps Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself?
I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He is a perfectly ordinary London gentleman, not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit.
Why would you say that?
And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime.
She looks as pale as candle wax.
I don't understand.
So, Madam Sibels, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200.
That is all my own money.
So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as an involuntary blush you cast. It would seem, Madame Sibel. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale. Your business is at hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200.
No.
Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Ah, yes. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most efficiently.
What are you suggesting?
He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand over the money did it occur to him what an extraordinary amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. The question that arises then is what became of the waxwork that changed hands. Let us consider that problem for a moment.
You cannot possibly...
What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Such as is worn by the policeman as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Cray.
What are you talking about?
The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards.
But...
Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before me, with this particular unsightly visage. I've been watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork.
But you...
Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxworks is the obvious price tag. threepence. A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aged waxworks, riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. That sort of plucky behaviour, that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madam?
I do not.
Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must have been reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. I see I've stunned you all into silence.
You have, Hurley. You have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot.
If I could just bring up 1 point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So, that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman? Ottomol? Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether.
And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottomol.
So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be? Indeed, it is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well.
But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model?
It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that pulls things and puts things in perspective. So, it is quite a lot then.
Is there anything else you wish to add? Before I melt you down?
The bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous.
The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me.
Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so I think I might call on your assistance here, Iris. Is that alright? Make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions.
Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight.
Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Sipels vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Sipels, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Let's get to the first problem. He definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But
but I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks even for £200.
Oh,
She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. For me, I wouldn't sell them for anything.
that much money I would, but it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance.
Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there?
Ah yes, let's see. Dear Madame Zipels, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. The money ready by noon on the 23rd of October.
What?
This is just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped.
Yes, it's a ransom note.
Exactly.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate those criminals on their inventiveness of devoting a wax work. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The modelling.
The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have.
In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is?
You could just ask him when he comes round.
I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris.
Yes, you're right. Early's trying so hard. We mustn't let him down.
Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. In that case, what's Madame Zipel trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around.
This is just Madame Supel's right hand, isn't it?
Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all.
Oh, but wait a minute. This is her left hand as well. Look.
Don't say such creepy things, Iris. Please.
It seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard.
You mean it's made of wax?
Take that!
What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb one could deliver a very substantial blow.
How could you?
That hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that it is in fact... it's a left hand. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madam. It is the hand of a waxwork model.
Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddled with the exhibits and caused damage.
So you mean that arm?
Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir.
No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms.
I'm afraid I had to teach the man a lesson.
You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result, the scene we see before us. He was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in the special exhibit has been kidnapped. That's right. And according to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign to other policemen that some crime is underway.
A way of communicating with his colleagues without revealing his identity. Yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard.
That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away.
Well, uncovering secrets is in any true detective's nature, of course.
Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Supel's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. What the? The man has a stub sticking out of the shoulder where his arm should be.
Well, that settles that then.
Right, this isn't a real person at all.
His entire arm's been ripped off from the shoulder down.
His arm's been... Of course, that ties in with what we just found out.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth. Of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact defying all odds. A waxwork model. Seem to remember it was you who proved that he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes.
He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man.
Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor of the special exhibit, wasn't it? Next, we should turn our attention to the old man sat before him with this particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact as if he were a waxwork.
But you...
Your reaction confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Blech. killer policeman called Ottomar, was it? Was he well known?
It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price though. Threepence isn't much money.
Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garridib's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? Waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200? Is this crusty old killer policeman Ottomar? Really?
Perhaps we should have a good look around and see if another idea crops up.
Look at this.
The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. He seems to be fast asleep though.
He's not tapping his foot consciously then. So you mean...
It must be a twitch.
Never mind that. The point is waxworks don't tap their feet.
Or twitch.
Look at his arm too. Seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we?
Take that!
Telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives then. And there you have it. Well, Madam Sir Wells?
Well, what? If it was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place.
Yes.
He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep.
And what's this price tag about showing? And then what's this tag about showing a price of 3p? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you'll observe the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway.
Of course, because as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, detective.
So it would seem that we finally arrived at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle.
All sorts of people visit my museum here. Men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time, on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway. Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe.
It was a pleasure, my dear madam. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display. if it was indeed genuinely abducted.
Yes, tragically it was.
Then I will ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. In as much detail as possible, if you please.
Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work.
The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please.
It was some days ago now. When I came in here one morning, I immediately noticed that the waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place.
Culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then.
So, this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. And the killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other I know, I would say. The Professor.
Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry?
The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it?
Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Baruch Van Zeeks graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying...
So, the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life.
As you've surmised, it was the Professor case. Who was this Professor then?
It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror for a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death.
And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zeeks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, what it is that the Professor earns, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest.
What do you mean, Hurley?
Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... Wait, of course. What Professor Hairsbrain said. Lord Van Zeeks is from a family with noble blood.
Oh gosh.
It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint Van Zeeks. No. I don't believe it. Van Zeeks? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourselves. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Baruch pursued a career as a prosecutor. and eventually became the Reaper we know today.
I had no idea Lord Van Zeeks had such a tragic past.
Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit.
I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well.
Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure, thank you. None of the predicted scenarios I've been analysing involved you coming to visit me here.
It's been too long, it really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak.
It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places.
I'll forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Man. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen.
Tomorrow, the court will decide.
Yes. Well, the young Easter man acting for my defence. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it.
I must warn you.
Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuted, aren't you?
Yes.
Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Barak, are you really...
What?
Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart.
My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else.
Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Barak.
Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court.
Okie dokie then. That will be all for now. It will probably be longer than an hour before I'm back with Xenoblade, because I got frigging ambushed a little earlier on to do something. Can't be helped. But I will be back. So for now though, bye.